Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. Purdue tipped off the basketball season on Monday with a win over Texas A&M Corpus-Christi. Some positives, some areas of concern to take a look at. We'll discuss both the good and the bad here on the show today. Before looking ahead to the weekend, as basketball returns to the court on Friday, football takes the field in Columbus on Saturday as a 38-point underdog. We'll talk about all that here today. If you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. Come join the conversation there. You can always send in questions for the podcast there or over email, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a podcast throughout what should be another exciting basketball season. Purdue gets a 17-point win in the season opener, though, 90-73 against Texas A&M Corpus-Christi. It was not a walk in the park, though. Purdue took a 16-point lead into halftime before turnovers, missed free throws, defensive struggles, all kind of added up and allowed the Islanders to stay in this one. At one point, I think the lead got cut to 3 in the second half. But Purdue pulled away late and won comfortably going away, starting the season 1-0. Matt Painter, 19-1 now in season openers at Purdue. Lost to Bucknell in 2012, maybe, is the only one. Some thoughts here on what we saw, and I'll start with the news itself of Raleigh Burgess not redshirting. On Sunday's podcast, I'd kind of laid out the arguments on both sides of that debate, whether to redshirt him, whether to play him this year. And ultimately, this decision comes down to the lack of separation in the front court. Right now, you have Trey Kaufman-Renn, who looks the part of an all-conference caliber player. Whether he does that or not remains to be seen, but he has the ability to develop into an all-conference caliber player. You have Daniel Jacobson, who is, we'll talk about him more, but there's going to be ups and downs this year, but you have to play through that with him. He's good enough that you do that. After him, after those two, who knows? You've got Caleb First, you have Will Berg, and you have Raleigh Burgess. I think in that first game, you saw Matt Painter really play around with lineups a lot. You didn't see a lot of Caleb First. And, to be fair, you know what you have in Caleb First. You don't exactly know what you have in these other guys. So in these bye games, you might as well figure out what you have. First, I do think can give you legitimate minutes. He can play defense. He can rebound. He's not going to be a big scorer, but I don't know how much post-scoring this team is going to have outside of Trey Kaufman-Renn and outside of, I don't want to say garbage points for Jacobson, but I don't think you're going to be throwing it to him on the block a ton. We'll see. But, with Burgess factoring into that mix, look, I don't think anyone saw anything from Will Berg on Monday night that makes you think Burgess can't beat him out in due time. There's a real opportunity there. And while I am probably higher on Caleb First than many others, it's not unreasonable that Raleigh Burgess can beat him out too and become that number 3 guy in the front court and get some really legitimate minutes. This could be very worthwhile if he's playing 15 minutes a game off the bench. We'll see what that looks like. Time will tell. But Purdue does have as many bullets in his chamber as possible. And something that Matt Painter talked about with this was, I was driving out of West Lafayette after the game on Monday, and he talked about just having the chance to win a Big Ten championship and how you want to have as many weapons at your disposal as possible. And Raleigh Burgess adds to this. This gives you another guy that you can factor in to that front court rotation that has a lot of bodies, but not a lot of separation at this point. In that front court, Daniel Jacobson has a really bright future. You can see why Purdue really likes this kid. He did some really nice things on Monday. There's still some rawness there. There's still a lack of comfort with the ball in his hands. There's still a lack of strength with the ball in his hands. But the rim protection was apparent. He can do that at a high level. The ability to move a little bit, you can see him move pretty well on his feet. He's not a slow, plodding big guy. He's going to have a really good career at Purdue. Goodness. Ups and downs this year are inevitable. He will have goods, he will have bads, but I think the juice will be worth the squeeze when we're sitting here 2 years out, where maybe at that point, he's an all-conference type big guy, and you did have some lumps when he first started, but it's worthwhile. These two freshman guards are going to become fan favorites really quickly. They're aggressive on defense. They play hard. They're not afraid. That's big. Purdue needs that. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer are really good players. They're all-conference type players. Braden Smith's an All-American type player. I don't know that either of them are elite individual defenders. Braden Smith can force some steals for you. I think Fletcher Lawyer's a pretty good team defender. I don't know that he's a great one-on-one defender. Miles Colvin has never proven to be a good defender to this point. So, these guys have a big role to play, and they do it. They're embracing that. That's really big. On the flip side, though, Miles Colvin, huge game offensively, knocks down 4 threes, I believe, 4 or 5 threes. He had a great day. Extreme confidence on that end. I was surprised to see Camden Heide pass up some open looks. His role is going to be interesting. I don't wonder if he is completely tapped out as a scorer at this point, and his value is going to lie elsewhere. We'll see. As I tweeted after the game, all of this falls into the context of, we saw this with Purdue football. Don't overreact to the first game, because I think a lot of us overreacted to the first football game, and Purdue hasn't won since and has been close like once, twice. So don't be too reactive here. Turnovers are a problem, obviously. 16 turnovers on the day. Look, to some degree, you have to live with them with Braden Smith. He is the most gifted facilitator I've ever seen at Purdue. He's one of the most gifted facilitators I can remember in college basketball. But when you have 15 assists in a game, there will be turnovers. When Corpus-Christi is hedging really hard and the open guys are cross-court passes and Corpus-Christi's really aggressive jumping the ball on the perimeter, there are going to be some turnovers. You do have to live with some of them, but you don't have to live with all of them. I expect Purdue to improve there. Purdue just had 7 in each of its exhibition games. Now, I don't know that Creighton is known to be a great defensive program. Obviously, very overmatched opponent in Grand Valley State, but I think Purdue can really improve in this area. I expect that Purdue will improve in this area. It's very much a program that has to avoid turnovers, because defense isn't going to be completely dominant. It's going to be good, but your offense is so efficient. It is so smooth that, look at this game. Purdue scores 90 points. It turns it over 16 times. It misses a bunch of free throws. This was really close to just being a complete blowout. If Purdue makes free throws and doesn't turn it over, Purdue's comfortably in triple digits. So, it is what it is here, but I think you do have to kind of take this all for what it's worth here. Purdue did a pretty good job on the offensive end when it wasn't turning the ball over. But right now, obviously defense has a ways to go. Corpus-Christi outscored Purdue in the paint. When is the last time anyone outscored Purdue in the paint? I don't know. It has to have been a couple of years. But Purdue right now has 3 all-conference players and a lot of question marks. And while it's a little unsettling to have so many question marks, I don't think many teams in America have as strong of a known core as Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn. I just don't. That's a really good place to start, especially after you lose the best player in school history, after you lose two really big role players in Lance Jones and Mason Gillis. Another guy you could throw in there and play very competently in Ethan Morton. That's a lot to lose. In this season, it's going to be a long year. You're going to play in a ton of close games. It's probably not the worst thing that Purdue had to go through a game like this where it expected to cruise comfortably. It didn't. But in the end of the day, Purdue does fade away from this one, winning by 17, and you're feeling all right about it. Purdue's got Northern Kentucky and Yale up next. Again, you're going to keep finding out what works. These are both capable mid-major opponents. They've been in the tournament in recent memory. Purdue played Yale in 2022 in the first round. Don't know that Purdue's played Northern Kentucky, but you have two more games here before Alabama comes in. Next Friday, Alabama comes in. And at that point, the season gets hot and heavy. I mean, your schedule is loaded at that point. After Alabama, you take on Marquette. Then you have your MTE the week after that. You have two Big Ten games, then A&M and Auburn. I mean, the schedule gets going real quick. So these are your opportunities here to figure out what you have, to figure out what works, to figure out what doesn't work. As long as you win these games, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter as long as you just keep winning and keep figuring out what works. That way, when you start playing against these higher level opponents, you know what you're comfortable doing, and that's important. After the break, we get to everyone's favorite topic, Purdue football. 2024 is coming to an end, and there were so many highlights of this year. While it may not have qualified as a highlight, did you review your insurance coverages with a professional this year? If not, give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me at jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com. We will go over your current insurance program for free with no obligation to even receive a quote, and we'll talk some Purdue sports in the process. Reach out today and we'll knock it out before the end of the year, no matter where you are in Indiana. So Purdue football takes the field on Saturday, still kind of reeling from its disappointing loss at the end against Northwestern. I rewatched it, obviously. I don't have a ton of additional thoughts other than this. Purdue's run defense is improving a little bit, but it's coming at the expense of teams just using the running back out of the backfield to exploit Purdue's lack of speed at linebacker. And that might as well be the same thing because quarterbacks aren't going to miss the little 2-yard dump off. In overtime, Northwestern did the same thing on both plays. It got the guy out of the backfield who Yanni Karlaftis was going to have to come from the middle linebacker spot to cover, and he didn't get there in time. There was a play early on where it happened to Hudson Miller. There was a play that Northwestern missed that would have resulted in a touchdown where it was Kydron Jenkins. I think Northwestern ended up scoring on that drive, but this was a common theme. And as you go into Ohio State with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, as you go into Penn State with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, I got bad news about what this could look like. This is Purdue's defense really, really just getting exploited. And when you look at the numbers, that's all that's happened this year. I don't have a whole lot to say about this Ohio State game. What is there to say? This is looking like the largest underdog role in Purdue football history. I've been told that Purdue was a 34-point underdog back at Notre Dame in 1974 when Purdue pulled the upset. I didn't know there were point spreads for college football that long ago, but there you go. Look, this isn't looking good for Purdue. I mean, these two teams don't play the same sport, and that's what gets really tricky about this new Big Ten, is you have the teams, a lot of them like Purdue, that want to have good football programs, that want to be respectable, but are not trying to win national championships. And that goes from everything like Rutgers and Northwestern all the way up to Iowa. And, I think Wisconsin thought it wanted to win national championships when it hired Luke Fickell, but I don't think that's going to happen. There's a big number of programs there that are in that boat. And then you have Ohio State, you have Oregon, you have Penn State, you have Michigan that want to win national championships and will do what it takes to do that. You've heard the NIL numbers at Ohio State. You've seen the recruiting classes. This is a whole different ballgame compared to what Purdue operates in. In the expanded Big Ten, that difference is really notable. I think you're going to see that grow year in, year out between the teams that want to win at a high level and the teams that want to be competitive, just as a little more of a baseline. But there's not a whole lot of reason to think that this game is going to be all that entertaining. Ohio State's coming off a big win, so is Ohio State ready to get up and play? I don't know how much Purdue can do. This is an elite Ohio State defense, so we'll see what the reaction looks like if Hudson Card comes out and struggles, which is probably fair to expect against this Ohio State defense. Your next 2 weeks are just brutal. There's not much else to say at this point. This season has just continued to spiral into a position that is really unenviable. And we have 4 games to go, final third of the season. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but there's not a whole lot of reason to have a high expectation for Saturday. See if Purdue can be competitive, see if Purdue can put some points up, see if Purdue can get some stops. I don't know, but yeah, there you go. I'm not really doing a prediction. I don't think it's going to be super close. See what Purdue can do. But programming note, no Sunday reaction podcast after this one. I will be in Florida, flying out there Thursday evening. We'll be back on Monday. Next week, midweek show, we'll talk about the final 2 bye games in basketball, talk about Alabama, and we'll kind of recap anything that comes from Ohio State, look ahead to Penn State. Probably going to be a pretty short football segment on that one again, but that's all I have for today. Thank you guys for spending your time with me. As I said, we'll be back midweek next week, talk about the final 2 bye games, talk about football, talk about Purdue hosting Alabama in a big non-conference game. Follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. Send me in your questions there or email me, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Until next time, guys, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing, and take care.